The Galactic Defense Academy hung in the black space between three bright stars. It was huge, bigger than most cities, with long metal arms reaching out like the legs of a giant spider. Ships came and went from its docking bays every hour, bringing new cadets from across the galaxy. Marcus Reed pressed his face against the small window of the transport ship as they got closer. He had dreamed of this moment for years, but now that it was happening, his stomach felt tight with worry. Around him, other new cadets talked in languages he did not know. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked like they were made of living crystal. All of them were bigger than him. The human section of the transport was small. Only 12 humans had been accepted this year out of thousands who applied. Marcus looked at his fellow humans and wondered if they felt as small as he did. There was Lisa, a girl from the Mars colonies who never seemed to worry about anything. Next to her sat Tom, whose family had been soldiers for generations. They all looked confident, but Marcus could see the same nervous energy in their eyes. First time seeing so many aliens? Asked the cadet sitting across from him. This one had green skin and 4 arms, with eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light of the transport. Yes, Marcus said. You? The alien laughed, a sound like water running over rocks. I am Villani. We have been part of the Confederation for 300 years, but humans... You are new, very new. The way he said it made it sound like being new was not a good thing. When the transport docked, Marcus grabbed his single bag and followed the crowd through the airlock. The academy was even bigger inside than it looked from space. The main corridor was wide enough for 10 people to walk side by side, and the ceiling was so high that Marcus had to tilt his head back to see it. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the halls, their voices creating a constant hum of different languages and sounds. A tall figure approached the group of new human cadets. He had blue skin and wore the uniform of an academy instructor. His name tag read Commander Thane in several different scripts. Human cadets, Commander Thane said in perfect English, though his voice had a strange musical quality. Follow me. We will get you settled and then begin your orientation. As they walked, Marcus noticed how other cadets looked at them. Some stared openly, while others whispered to their friends and pointed. He heard the word Deathworlders several times, always said in the same tone people might use to talk about something dangerous or unpleasant. Their dormitory was in a section marked Special Environmental Controls. The walls were painted a soft blue-green that was supposed to remind humans of Earth's sky. The gravity felt right, and the air smelled clean and familiar. Marcus was assigned to room 247, which he would share with a cadet from the Korath species. His roommate was already there when Marcus arrived. The Korath was huge, at least 7 feet tall, with dark red scales covering his body like armor. His head looked like a cross between a lizard and a dragon, with small horns above his yellow eyes. He was unpacking clothes that looked like they were made for someone twice Marcus's size. You must be the human, the Korath said without looking up. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. I am Voss. Marcus, he replied, setting his bag on the empty bed. The bed looked tiny next to Voss's, but it was still bigger than what Marcus had grown up with on Earth. Voss finally turned to look at him, and Marcus could see the surprise in his eyes. You are smaller than I expected. Sorry to disappoint. You, Marcus said, trying to make a joke. It is not disappointment, Voss said seriously. It is confusion. Your world is listed as a Class 12 death world, the most dangerous classification we have. But you look. He paused, searching for the right word. Soft. Marcus had heard this before. Earth's classification as a death world was something humans were proud of, but it made other species treat them like they were either incredibly tough or incredibly stupid. Sometimes both. Looks can be fooling, Marcus said, unpacking his few belongings. The next morning brought their first combat training Session. The zero-gravity chamber was a sphere about 50 feet across, with weapons racks built into the walls. Marcus had trained in similar chambers on Earth, but this one was more advanced. The weapons were energy-based, designed to stun rather than kill, but they still packed enough power to drop most beings instantly. Commander Thane explained the exercise. You will work in pairs. One person attacks, one defends. The weapons are calibrated for your species' physiology. A direct hit will simulate the effect of a killing blow without permanent damage. Marcus was paired with a Throxy cadet named Kess. The Throxy looked like a person made of living crystal, with light flowing through his transparent body in patterns that changed with his mood. Right now the patterns were sharp and aggressive, which Marcus guessed meant Kess was excited about the fight. I will try not to hurt you too badly, human, Kess said, his voice ringing like a bell. Thanks, Marcus replied, picking up his training weapon. It felt heavier than the ones he was used to, but the grip was designed to fit human hands. They took their positions on opposite sides of the chamber. When Commander Thane gave the signal, Kess moved with incredible speed. His crystal body seemed to bend light around it, making him hard to see clearly. Marcus barely managed to dodge the first energy blast, which scorched the wall behind him. The watching cadets began to mutter among themselves. Marcus could hear bits of their conversations, and none of it was encouraging. They were placing bets on how quickly he would go down. Most of them gave him less than 30 seconds. Kess fired again, and this time Marcus could not dodge fast enough. The energy bolt caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending waves of pain through his body. It felt like being hit by lightning, which Marcus realized was probably exactly what it was supposed to feel like. But Marcus did not fall down. He stumbled, shook his head to clear it, and raised his weapon again. The chamber went quiet. Kess's crystal body flickered with confusion, the light patterns inside him shifting to something Marcus had never seen before. Interesting, Commander, Thane said quietly. Kess fired a third time, putting more power into the shot. This one hit Marcus square in the chest, and the pain was so intense that his vision went white for a moment. His legs almost gave out, and he could taste blood in his mouth. Still, he did not fall. Around the chamber, alien cadets stopped their own training to watch. Marcus could see the confusion in their faces, the same expression Vos had worn when they first met. They did not understand what they were seeing. The truth was, Marcus did not fully understand it either. All he knew was that giving up had never been an option for him, or for any human he had ever known. On Earth, you learned early that pain was temporary, but quitting was forever. He raised his weapon one more time, smiled through the blood on his lips, and waited for Kess to fire again. 2 weeks passed quickly at the academy. Marcus fell into a routine of classes, training, and trying to understand his alien classmates. The other species seemed to accept him better now, especially after word spread about his performance in the zero-gravity chamber. But there was still tension in the air, like the feeling before a thunderstorm. The tension had a name, and that name was Grak. Grak was a Korath like Vos, but bigger and meaner. Where Vos was thoughtful and careful with his words, Grak was loud and aggressive. He stood almost 8 feet tall, with scales so thick they looked like armor plating. His claws were longer than Marcus's fingers, and his teeth were sharp enough to bite through metal. More importantly, Grak seemed to have a personal problem with humans. Deathworlders, he would say whenever he saw Marcus and the other humans in the dining hall. They think they are tough because they come from a dangerous planet. But a dangerous planet just makes dangerous food for real predators. Marcus tried to ignore him, but Grak made that harder every day. During weapons training, Grak would accidentally bump into human cadets, sending them flying across the room. During tactical classes, he would interrupt human cadets when they tried to answer questions, saying their ideas were too primitive to be useful. The instructors seemed to think this was normal behavior and did nothing to stop it. Vos was embarrassed by his fellow Carafa's actions. "Not all of my people are like him," he told Marcus one evening as they studied in their room. "Grak comes from the old warrior clans. They believe strength is the only thing that matters. What do you believe?" Marcus asked. Voss was quiet for a long moment. "I believe there are many kinds of strength. But I am not sure Grak is wrong about humans being weak. You took those energy blasts in training, yes, but that was just one exercise. Real combat is different," Marcus nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. Taking a few energy shots was one thing, but could humans really compete with beings who had natural armor, multiple arms, or the ability to see in complete darkness? Sometimes he wondered if Earth had made a mistake sending humans to the academy at all. The answer came during their third week, when Commander Thane announced a new training exercise. "Urban warfare simulation," he said, standing before the assembled cadets in the main briefing room. "You will be divided into teams of 4. Each team will have mixed species to simulate real Confederation units. The scenario is a disputed colony. World with hostile automated defenses. Your mission is to complete objectives while under fire." The room buzzed with excitement. This was the kind of training cadets talked about in whispers, the kind that separated the future officers from the future support staff. "The simulation is completely realistic," Commander Thane continued. "The weapons are calibrated to your species' maximum tolerance. A direct hit will incapacitate you, but will not cause permanent damage. However, the pain will be real, and the experience will be intense. Any cadet who wishes to withdraw may do so now with no shame." Nobody moved. "Very well. Team assignments are now being posted." Marcus found his name on the list for Team 7. His teammates were Voss, which made him happy, a Throxy engineer named Kess, and a Volani pilot named Rava. It was a good mix of skills and species. Marcus felt confident about their chances. Then he saw the opposing team. Assignments. Team 3 was led by Grak. His teammates included Nyx, an arachnoid whose spider-like body could climb walls and ceilings; Bren, a heavily armored Tauren who looked like a walking tank; and Zoe, a Volani sniper whose 4 arms allowed her to operate multiple weapons at once. "This is not good," Voss said, reading over Marcus's shoulder. "It's fine," Marcus replied, though his stomach felt tight. "We have good people too." But as they prepared their equipment, Marcus could hear Grak talking loudly to anyone who would listen. "The humans on Team 7 will break first," Grak announced. "Humans are only tough compared to the weak prey animals on their primitive world. Against real warriors, they shatter like glass." Other cadets gathered around to listen. Marcus could see them placing bets, and from their expressions, most of the money was going against Team 7. "I wonder how long the human will last," said one of the arachnoid cadets. "My cousin Nyx has never lost a simulation." 5 minutes, said a Tauren. "Humans cannot handle real pressure." 2 minutes, countered a Volani. "I have studied their biology. They are designed for a low-stress environment. One serious threat, and their nervous systems will overload." Marcus pretended not to hear them, but each word felt like a small cut. Maybe they were right. Maybe humans really were too weak for this level of training. The simulation chamber was enormous, designed to look like a bombed-out city. Buildings rose 3 stories high, their walls scarred with blast marks and bullet holes. Smoke machines filled the air with a thick haze that smelled like burning plastic. The automated defense systems were hidden throughout the area, ready to open fire on any cadet who made a mistake. Team 7 gathered at their starting position, a ruined building at the south end of the simulation area. Their first objective was to secure a communication relay 3 blocks away. It sounded simple, but Marcus knew it would not be. "Stay close," Rava said, checking her weapons. Her 4 arms moved independently, each one handling a different piece of equipment. "The arachnoids are fast and like to attack from above." Watch the rooftops. Kess's crystal body was already interfacing with the building's electronic systems, gathering information about the defense network. I can disable some of the automated guns, he said, but it will take time. We do not have time, Voss replied, pointing toward the other end of the simulation area. Team 3 is already moving. They were right. Through the smoke and haze, Marcus could see Grak's massive form leading his team in a direct assault toward the center of the area. The Korath was not trying to be subtle or careful. He was using his natural armor to absorb hits from the automated defenses, while his teammates followed behind him. They are going for the main objective first, Rava said. If they secure the central command post, they can control all the defenses in the area. Then we need to stop them, Marcus said. His teammates looked at him with surprise. Stop them? Voss asked. We are supposed to complete our own objectives, not fight the other team directly. The objectives don't matter if they control the entire simulation, Marcus replied. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. It was something his grandfather had told him, back when Marcus was just a kid learning to fight in the schoolyard. His grandfather had been a soldier in the old Earth Wars, and he had taught Marcus that sometimes you had to do things that seemed crazy to win. Team 7 moved out, heading not toward their assigned objective, but toward the center of the simulation, where Team 3 was making their assault. Marcus could hear the sound of energy weapons firing, the crash of falling debris, and the electronic wails of the automated defense systems. The real battle was about to begin. The first energy blast hit Marcus in the chest like a sledgehammer made of lightning. The force lifted him off his feet and slammed him against a concrete wall. Pain exploded through his body, starting from the burn mark on his chest and spreading outward like fire in his veins. His vision went white, then black, then white again. Every alien cadet watching the simulation expected him to stay down. The weapons were calibrated specifically for human physiology. The energy output was calculated to deliver exactly the right amount of neural feedback to simulate a killing blow without causing permanent damage. For a human, that meant enough electrical current to stop a horse. Marcus felt his muscles lock up as the artificial lightning coursed through his nervous system. His heart skipped 3 beats before settling back into a rhythm that felt like a drum being beaten by a madman. The taste of copper filled his mouth as he bit down on his tongue. But he did not stay down. Marcus pushed himself up from the rubble, spat blood onto the concrete, and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. The watching cadets fell silent. Even the automated defense system seemed to pause, as if they could not process what they were seeing. Impossible, whispered Commander Thane from the observation deck. The neural feedback should have rendered him unconscious for at least 10 minutes. Grak stood 30 feet away, his massive energy rifle still smoking from the shot. His yellow eyes were wide with confusion. Stay down, human, he growled. You are finished. Not yet, Marcus said, his voice rough but steady. He picked up his weapon from where it had fallen and checked the charge. Still good for 20 shots. Team 7 had been scattered by the initial assault. Kess was down, his crystal body flickering weakly as the energy weapons overloaded his delicate nervous system. Rova had taken a shot to her midsection that would have killed a human instantly, but her species had redundant organs. She was still breathing, but barely conscious. Voss was pinned behind a pile of rubble, trading shots with Bren while trying to avoid Nix, who was crawling across the ceiling like a giant spider dot. It was 4 against 1. And Marcus was the one. The second energy blast caught him in the shoulder as he dove for cover behind an overturned vehicle. This shot was more powerful than the first, and Marcus felt something pop in his shoulder joint. His right arm went numb from the elbow down, and he had to switch his weapon to his left hand. Still, he kept moving. The third shot hit his leg as he rolled behind a concrete barrier. The impact cracked the bone, and Marcus felt his knee buckle. He should have been screaming. He should have been begging for the simulation to end. Instead, he gritted his teeth and started crawling toward Nix's position. In the observation deck, alien instructors were checking and rechecking their equipment. "The weapons are functioning normally," reported Dr. Quill, the Throxy medical officer. "But the human is showing impossible pain tolerance. His nervous system should be in complete shutdown." "Maybe the calibration is wrong," suggested another. "Instructor." "No," said Commander Thane quietly. "The calibration is perfect. We just do not understand what we are dealing with." Marcus reached the base of the building where Nix had taken position. The arachnoid was firing down at Vus, his multiple eyes tracking every movement. Nix's species was perfectly designed for this kind of combat, with natural armor, multiple limbs, and the ability to walk on any surface. Against a human, it should have been no contest, but Marcus had grown up on Earth, where the spiders were smaller but just as deadly, and where children learned early that the best way to deal with something that could kill you was to kill it. First, he started climbing. The building's exterior was damaged from the simulated bombing, full of handholds and gaps in the concrete. Marcus pulled himself up with his good arm, using his legs to brace against the wall. Each movement sent waves of pain through his body, but pain was something he had learned to ignore a long time ago. Growing up in the Detroit ruins, pain had been a constant companion. Broken bones from playing in collapsed buildings, burns from faulty electrical systems, cuts from scavenging in the wreckage of the old world. His parents had taught him that pain was just information, a way for your body to tell you what was wrong. But information could be filed away and dealt with later. Right now, he had more important things to worry about. Nick sensed movement below him and turned his multiple eyes downward. When he saw Marcus climbing toward him, the arachnoid's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "Foolish human," Nick said, his voice like the sound of breaking glass. "You cannot reach me. I am too high, and you are too damaged." Marcus did not waste breath on a reply. He just kept climbing. The fourth energy blast came from directly above. Nix had perfect aim, and the shot hit Marcus' center mass. The impact was so powerful that it tore his grip loose from the wall. He fell 15 feet and landed hard on his back, the concrete driving the air from his lungs. The watching cadets began to murmur among themselves. Surely this was the end. No being could survive that much damage and keep fighting. Even the humans in the observation deck looked worried. But Marcus had learned something growing up in the ruins that none of the other species understood. He had learned that the difference between winning and losing was not whether you got hurt. It was whether you got back up. He rolled over, pushed himself to his knees, and then to his feet. Blood ran down his face from where his head had hit the concrete. His left arm was not working properly anymore, and he could feel broken ribs grinding together with each breath, but he was still standing. "What are you?" Nix whispered from above, his voice no longer mocking. Marcus looked up at the arachnoid with eyes that had seen too much pain to be stopped by more of it. "I am human," he said. Simply. Then he did something that made every alien in the academy question everything they thought they knew about warfare. Instead of retreating, instead of calling for help, instead of trying to find a better position, Marcus began climbing again. This time, he climbed faster. Nix fired again and again. Each shot found its mark, each impact sending shockwaves through Marcus's already damaged body. But Marcus had discovered something that his alien opponents could not understand. Once you had been hurt badly enough, getting hurt more did not matter as much. The pain became background noise, like the sound of rain or wind. He reached the roof. Nix was waiting for him, all 8 legs braced for combat, his natural weapons gleaming in the artificial sunlight. The arachnoid was bigger, faster, and better armed. In any fair fight, Marcus would have died in seconds, but Marcus had learned something else growing up on Earth. He had learned that fair fights were for people who had other options. He threw himself at Nix, not trying to dodge or block, just accepting that he was going to get hurt and focusing on making sure Nix got hurt worse. It was a human way of fighting, alien to every other species in the galaxy. They went down together in a tangle of limbs and weapons. Nix's claws raked across Marcus's chest, opening wounds that would have sent any other species into shock. But Marcus held on, using his weight and desperation to pin the arachnoid's weapon arm. His training rifle was lost in the fall, but Marcus still had his sidearm. He pressed it against Nix's head and fired. The simulation registered Nix's elimination, and the arachnoid's body went limp. Marcus rolled off him and lay on his back, staring up at the artificial sky. Every part of his body was screaming in pain, but he was still conscious, still breathing, still fighting. Down below, the rest of Team 3 had stopped their assault to stare up at the roof. Grak's yellow eyes were wide with something that might have been fear. "Impossible," he said, his voice barely audible, but Marcus was already moving again, looking for his next target. The simulation was not over yet. The Academy's medical bay had never seen anything like Marcus Reed. Dr. Quill, the head medical officer, ran his scanner over the human's body for the 5th time, his crystalline fingers clicking against the device as he tried to make sense of the readings. "This is impossible," Dr. Quill muttered, his translucent body flickering with patterns of confusion. "According to these scans, you should be dead. Your nervous system shows massive trauma, your muscle tissue is severely damaged, and your pain receptors are firing constantly. How are you sitting up and talking?" Marcus sat on the examination table, his legs dangling over the edge like a child's. His training uniform was torn and burned, showing the dark marks where the energy weapons had hit him. Bandages covered most of his visible skin, but his eyes were clear and alert. "I feel fine," Marcus said, which was not exactly true. Every movement sent waves of pain through his body, and he could taste blood every time he swallowed. But compared to some of the injuries he had survived on Earth, this was manageable. "Fine?" Dr. Quill's voice rose to a higher pitch. "You took 7 direct hits from weapons calibrated to incapacitate your species. The neural feedback alone should have put you in a coma." Vos sat in a chair nearby, his own injuries much lighter than Marcus's. The Korath had watched his human roommate finish the simulation after eliminating Nix, moving through the ruins like a walking nightmare until Grak finally surrendered rather than face him alone. Now Vos was looking at Marcus like he was seeing him for the first time. "On my world," Vos said slowly, "we have a saying. The strongest warrior is the one who never falls down. But you fell down many times and kept getting back up. I do not understand how this is possible." Dr. Quill finished his scans and stepped back, his body shifting to deeper patterns of concern. "I need to consult with the other medical staff. This is beyond my experience." After the doctor left, Marcus and Vos sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside the medical bay's window, they could see other cadets going about their training. But Marcus noticed that many of them kept glancing toward the medical bay. Word of what had happened in the simulation had spread quickly. "They are afraid of you now," Vos observed. "That was not the point," Marcus said. "What was the point?" Marcus thought about how to explain it. On Earth, children learned early that there were 2 kinds of animals in the world. There were the ones that ran when threatened, and there were the ones that fought back. Humans had decided long ago which kind they wanted to be. "My grandfather used to tell me stories about the old wars on Earth," Marcus said. "He fought in something called World War III, when the climate wars were at their worst. He used to say that the most dangerous soldier was not the one with the biggest gun or the thickest armor. It was the one who would keep fighting when everyone else gave up." Vos nodded slowly. "Your grandfather was a warrior?" "Everyone on Earth was a warrior," Marcus replied. "We had to be. Our planet tried to kill us every day for millions of years. Storms that could level cities, animals that saw us as food, diseases that wiped out entire populations. We survived because we learned to be stubborn. The door to the medical bay opened, and Commander Thane entered with two other instructors. Marcus did not recognize. The Villani commander's forearms moved nervously as he approached. "Cadet Reed," Commander Thane said formally. "I need to ask you some questions about what happened in the simulation." "Yes, sir." Commander Thane activated a recording device and set it on the table between them. "For the record, please describe your experience during the urban warfare exercise." Marcus told the truth. He described getting hit by the energy weapons, the pain, the difficulty moving with his injuries. He explained his decision to continue fighting and his tactics for defeating Nyx. He did not try to make himself sound brave or heroic. He just described what had happened. When he was finished, the three instructors exchanged glances. One of them, a tall Taurine with gray skin, leaned forward. "Cadet Reed, are you aware that the weapons used in that simulation are calibrated to deliver what your species would consider lethal force?" "Yes, sir." "And you continued fighting despite receiving multiple hits that should have incapacitated you?" "Yes, sir." The third instructor, a Villani female with silver markings on her arms, spoke up. "We have reviewed your species files. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, but we assumed this was due to environmental hazards and dangerous fauna. We are beginning to understand that we may have misunderstood the classification." Commander Thane pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's history. Images flashed by of wars that had consumed entire continents, weapons that could destroy cities, conflicts that had lasted for generations. "Your species fought each other for thousands of years," Commander Thane said. "Even after you developed weapons capable of destroying your entire planet, you continued fighting. Other species in the galaxy avoid conflict when possible. They use diplomacy, negotiation, and compromise. But humans seem to approach conflict as a natural state." Marcus shrugged, which made him wince as his broken ribs shifted. "We fight because we have to. Because giving up means dying, and dying means your family dies, and your friends die, and everything you care about dies with you." "But you could have called for extraction from the simulation," the Tauran instructor pointed out. There was no shame in admitting defeat when facing superior opponents. "They were not superior," Marcus said simply. The three instructors looked at each other again. Commander Thane turned off the recording device. "Cadet Reed, what do you know about your species' reputation in the galaxy?" "Not much, sir. I know most species think we are weak because we come from a high-gravity world and have no natural weapons or armor. That is partially correct," Commander Thane said carefully. "But there are other concerns. Some species in the Confederation are worried about what humans might become if they ever decide that peaceful coexistence is no longer in their interests." Marcus frowned. "I do not understand, sir." The Villani instructor leaned forward. "Your species conquered your entire planet, Cadet Reed. Every environment, every climate, every hostile territory. You turned predators into pets, diseases into medicines, and weapons into tools. When you ran out of external enemies, you fought each other. When you ran out of reasons to fight, you invented new ones. And now," the Tauran added, "you are beginning to move out into the galaxy. Some species are concerned about what happens when a species that sees conflict as natural encounters the resources and territories of others." Marcus looked at the three instructors, beginning to understand why his performance in the simulation had caused such a stir. It was not just about his ability to absorb damage and keep fighting. It was about what that ability represented. "We do not want to conquer the galaxy," Marcus said. "We just want to be part of it." "We believe you," Commander Thane said. "But belief and trust are different things. Today, you showed the Academy that humans can continue fighting under conditions that would stop any other species. That is both impressive and terrifying." The door opened again, and Dr. Quill returned with a thick file of medical reports. His crystal body was flickering with excitement. "Commander," he said, "I have consulted with medical experts from 17 different species. They all agree that what this human accomplished should be biologically impossible. His pain tolerance is approximately 10 times higher than any other known species." "How is that possible?" Commander Thane asked Dr. Quills. Patterns shifted to something like wonder. "Evolution, Commander. Humans evolved on a world so hostile that normal pain responses would have been fatal. An animal that stops moving when injured becomes food for predators. So humans developed the ability to function through injuries that would disable other species. They are not just tough," the Tauran instructor said slowly. "They are designed to keep fighting when they should be dead." Marcus listened to the discussion with growing unease. He had never thought of himself as particularly tough or scary. He was just a kid from Detroit who wanted to serve in the Confederation fleet, but he could see in the instructors' faces that something had changed. They were not looking at him like a student anymore. They were looking at him like a weapon. "Sir," Marcus said quietly, "are you going to kick us out of the academy?" Commander Thane was quiet for a long moment. "No, Cadet Reed, but things are going to be different now. The galaxy needs to understand what humanity is capable of. And humanity needs to understand what the galaxy expects from them." Outside the medical bay, Marcus could see cadets from dozens of species walking past the window. Some of them looked at him with fear, others with respect, and a few with something that might have been hunger. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were not the prey species they had assumed. And Marcus was beginning to understand that being predators might be even more dangerous than being prey. 6 months later, Marcus Reed stood in the Academy's main auditorium wearing the silver bars of a new lieutenant. Around him, 300 other cadets waited to receive their assignments to ships throughout the Confederation fleet. The ceremony was the same as it had been for decades, but something fundamental had changed in the months since the urban warfare simulation. The Academy had quietly restructured its entire training program. Combat courses now included mandatory endurance modules, teaching alien cadets that victory sometimes meant lasting longer than your opponent, rather than striking the killing blow. The medical department had developed new treatment protocols. After studying human physiology and discovering pain tolerance levels that required completely new scales of measurement. Most importantly, the tactical instruction had been updated to include what the instructors carefully called persistence warfare techniques. Marcus could see the changes in his classmates' faces. Where once they had looked at humans with casual dismissal or mild curiosity, now their expressions carried something more complex. Respect, certainly, but also a kind of wariness that had not been there before. Even Grak, the massive Karaf who had once mocked humans openly, now gave Marcus a careful nod whenever their paths crossed in the corridors. The graduation speaker was Admiral Vex, a elderly Throxy whose crystal body had grown dark with age and experience. His voice rang through the auditorium like distant thunder as he spoke about duty, honor, and service to the Confederation. "You are not just graduating as officers," Admiral Vex said, his words translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. "You are becoming the guardians of peace in a galaxy where peace is never guaranteed. Some of you will serve on exploration vessels, mapping new worlds and making first contact with unknown species. Others will patrol the borders, protecting trade routes and colonies from raiders and pirates. All of you will face challenges that will test everything you have learned here." Marcus listened with half his attention while scanning the faces in the crowd. His fellow human graduates sat scattered throughout the auditorium, no longer grouped together in their own section as they had been at the beginning. Lisa sat with a group of Alani navigation specialists. Tom had been accepted into the elite Korath Marines, the first human ever to qualify for their ranks. The integration had happened gradually, but it had happened. After the ceremony, as cadets moved through the reception hall saying goodbye to classmates and instructors, Marcus found himself approached by Commander Thane, the Villani officers. 4 arms carried a datapad and what looked like an official document. "Lieutenant Reed," Commander Thane said formally. "Congratulations on your graduation. I have your assignment orders." Marcus accepted the document, noting that it was sealed with the insignia of Fleet Command rather than the Academy. That was unusual for a new graduate. "Thank you, sir." "Where am I being posted?" "The CNS Intrepid," Commander Thane replied. "Deep space exploration vessel, currently assigned to survey the Outer Rim systems. Captain Rosk specifically requested you for her crew." Marcus frowned. Captain Rosk was a legend in the fleet, one of the most experienced exploration commanders in the service. New graduates did not usually get assigned to ships like the Intrepid. "Sir, may I ask why Captain Rosk requested me specifically?" "Commander." Thane's expression was unreadable. "She believes that human perspectives and capabilities will be valuable in first contact situations. There are species in the Outer Rim that we have never encountered before, and some of them may not respond well to traditional diplomatic approaches." Before Marcus could ask what that meant, Voss appeared at his shoulder. The young Kareth had grown more serious over the past 6 months, and his friendship with Marcus had deepened into something like brotherhood. "Marcus," Voss said, "I have been assigned to the Intrepid as well, weapons officer." "That is good news," Marcus replied, genuinely pleased. "It will be good to serve with a friend." Commander Thane excused himself, but not before giving Marcus a meaningful look. "Remember, Lieutenant, you represent more than just yourself out there. The galaxy is still learning what humans are capable of." As the evening progressed, Marcus found himself in conversation with cadets from dozens of different species. The topics were the same as always: excitement about their new assignments, speculation about what challenges they would face, promises to stay in touch across the vast distances of space. But underneath the familiar conversations, Marcus could sense a change in how others talked to him. They asked his opinions more often now. They listened more carefully when he spoke. More importantly, they seemed to expect him to have answers to problems that had no easy solutions. Kess, the Throxy engineer who had been on Marcus's team during the simulation, approached him near the end of the evening. The crystal being's body pulsed with nervous energy. "Marcus," Kess said, "I wanted to thank you for what you taught me during that simulation." "I did not teach you anything," Marcus replied. "You were eliminated early in the exercise." "That is exactly what you taught me," Kess said, his voice ringing with sincerity. "I was eliminated because I expected the simulation to follow certain rules. I expected opponents to stop fighting when they were hurt badly enough. You showed me that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who refuses to accept that they have lost." Marcus thought about that for a moment. It is not about refusing to accept loss. It is about refusing to accept that loss is permanent. There's always another chance, another way, another option if you keep looking for it. Kess's body flickered with understanding. Yes, that is what makes humans dangerous. Not your physical capabilities, but your mental ones. You do not think the same way we do about conflict and survival. As the reception wound down, Marcus found himself on one of the Academy's observation decks, looking out at the stars. The Academy was positioned between 3 star systems, and from this viewpoint he could see ships coming and going in all directions. Some were heading to the core worlds, others to the frontier colonies, and a few to destinations so far away that their light would not reach Earth for centuries. Voss joined him at the window, and they stood in comfortable silence for a while. "Are you worried about our assignment?" Voss asked eventually. "No," Marcus said, and realized he meant it. "The Outer Rim will have challenges we have never seen before. New species, new problems, new dangers, but that is what humans do best. What do you mean? Marcus smiled, remembering his grandfather's stories about the early space colonists, the people who had left Earth to settle hostile worlds with nothing but determination and basic supplies. We adapt, Marcus said simply. Put a human somewhere. They have never been before, with problems they have never seen, and they will figure out a way to survive. Then they will figure out a way to thrive. And if someone tries to stop them, they will figure out a way to win. Voss was quiet for a long moment. The other species are still learning to understand humans. Some of them are afraid of what your people might become. They should not be afraid of what we might become, Marcus replied. They should be grateful for what we choose to become. A week later, Marcus stood on the bridge of the Science Intrepid as it prepared to jump to hyperspace. Captain Rusk, a seasoned Vellani with silver markings that indicated decades of service, had welcomed him aboard with the kind of respect usually reserved for much more experienced officers. "Lieutenant Reed," she had said during his first briefing, "I requested you for this mission because we are going places where the usual rules may not apply. We may encounter species that do not respond to diplomacy, or situations where standard protocols are inadequate. In those moments, I need someone who can think differently about problems." Now, as the stars shifted into the familiar blue tunnel of hyperspace, Marcus thought about what lay ahead. The outer rim was full of unknown worlds, undiscovered species, and challenges that no one in the Confederation had faced before. There would be dangers that could not be solved with superior firepower or advanced technology, but Marcus was not worried. He was human, which meant he came from a species that had turned a death world into a garden, predators into pets and enemies into allies. Whatever the galaxy could throw at them, humans would find a way to handle it. Behind him, Voss worked at the weapons console with the steady competence that had made him one of the top graduates in their class. Around the bridge, officers from a dozen different species went about their duties with the confidence that came from knowing they were part of the best crew in the fleet, and at the center of it all, a human lieutenant who had learned something important during his time at the academy. He had learned that strength was not about being the biggest or the fastest or the most heavily armed. Strength was about getting back up when you were knocked down, finding another way when the first way failed, and never, ever giving up on the things that mattered. The galaxy was about to learn what that kind of strength could accomplish, and Marcus Reed was ready to show them.